Alright, what's up with it? This is Ray Azul Sovereign, aka MadDoggBlue's, and this is Toady Mode TV, right? We're still working on the podcast, so bear with me, you know what I mean? Parlay, chill with me, and let's see if we can't get this thing to my liking, right? I've put together several other prototypes in order to get this thing going. Actually, I have a fucking excellent setup on one of my laptops. However, some of that material and some of that stuff, I don't know if I wanted to use it, right? It's funny, it's entertaining, but the question becomes, is it appropriate, right? Is that the message? Is that the material I want to be presenting on YouTube just for shock value, right? Is that what I want to do? Could be that the answer to that is yes, emphatically yes. Use that stuff because it's entertaining and it's guaranteed to hold an audience. It's guaranteed to keep the audience captivated in a way that is beneficial to me. However, some of that stuff, I mean, you know, I like to try different things. I like to see how certain setups and certain, you know, presentations may or may not be better in different ways than others. So anyway, this is going to be a short presentation. So I'm not going to take up too much of your time, and the reason being is that it's late, and B, I don't want to spend too much time rambling on what you're looking at on your computer screen right now, which quite obviously is a charlatan, right? Not me. Don't trip. We ain't talking about me in that regard. I'm not the personality that tends to come on this internet every single day talking about myself. That's not what I do. However, we're going to discuss someone who does that religiously. They'll tell you Islam this and Islam that, and As-salama, all salami, he licks them, and why lick them salamis and all this other stuff, right? He'll tell you all kind of craziness when in reality, dude is a charlatan. He's the worst kind of merchant. He's the worst kind of salesperson. He's always trying to come up. And that's not to say that, you know, we come from, that's the bad thing, is we come from a society that tells us that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be hustling. We're supposed to be trying to come up. We're supposed to be trying to get it, right? We're supposed to be trying to get in where it is that we can fit in. However, the issue also is that we do that to one another. You see what I mean? So, whereas this person on the screen goes by the handle Sabir Bey, that's not his name, right? So that should let you know something's going on there, right? He's using a company name. He's using an LLC because basically he believes in his mind that his actual government name is the same sort of thing. So why not create his own name, etc., and use that name as a shell company for who he is actually, which is sort of the way that this shit works. So it's twisted, right? It's not all malarkey. It's not all bullshit. It's actually effective in a twisted sort of dynamic, in a twisted sort of way, if you know how it all works. Now, if you don't know how it works, it could be confusing or it could seem majestic. But if you do know the way it works, right, then you start to say to yourself, okay, well, certain people are using remedial tactics to accomplish certain goals, which are effective and are applicable. However, not in the way that they want to present it to you, which is kind of how a scam works, right? There are plenty of games that you could play. These are like 5-card Molly dudes. These are them kind of dudes that run up on you with a little ball and 3 cups, right? And try to run game on you that way. Like, keep your eye on the cup when really they done slipped the ball or whatever it is. This is what they do religiously. This is the tactic they use over and over and over again. It's unfortunately, and it's weird, it's strange, but it's something you really do see on the East Coast. It's like embedded in a certain generation of people or a certain group of people. They really believe that they can trick people into doing all sorts of different things. What's unfortunate is some people are gullible, certain communities are gullible, whether that's because they're uneducated, they just don't know, or they get caught up in the mesmerism of it, they get caught up in the crowd dynamics of it, or whatever it might be. But there are gullible people in the world, and they fall for the tactics these people use repetitiously, right? So what is the repetitious tactic that these dudes use? One of them is that they use reverse psychology. Almost everything that they say and do, everything they present, everything that they try to put forward in the face of another person in order to get them to do something, believe something, agree with something, etc., is based on reverse psychology, right? First, they're going to take advantage of this particular peon says this shit all the time, right? First, he's going to figure out what you don't know, right? So then he can tell you what you do know, or some weird bullshit like that, right? It's going to be on some Johnny Cochran type shit. It has to rhyme because it's hip hop B. Check it, money, right? It's weirdo shit. Like in California on the West Coast, gangs, gangsters, the way people do things tends to be a little bit more straightforward, right? I mean, like, there are groups of people that will fuck with you and they will mess with you, or they will put wool over your eyeballs if they see that you're just a mark, if they see that you're a trick, right? But usually, once they see that you can see through that shit, they retreat, right? Because this is dangerous business. This is a dangerous game. On the East Coast, it seems to me like, these people, they take pride in tricking people, right? They're like, oh yeah, I'm a hustler. This is hustling, right? You're lying. You're using all type of charlatan tactics and mercantile tactics to jump in people's faces, selling them bullshit, right? And so that leads me to this particular caricature, however we'd like to say it, that's being presented on the screen right here to the right hand side. You can see that there are 3 different screens here, all showing the same individual, or what, I don't know if he's an individual. He might just be part of a common core sort of group dynamic that teaches this sort of shit, right? They go to classes and workshops like how to lie, cheat, and steal 101, how to lie, cheat, and steal 102, right? These are college courses, right? Like how to lie to a motherfucker and tell them you're telling the truth while you're lying when really you're lying and they know that you're not telling the truth. It's a trip. Way off the gas, but see me, so being from California, I dealt with people like these before, right? Oftentimes it's older people, right? It's older folks that be trying to get over the way that this cat on the screen goes by the handle Bay, right? Sabir Bay. Normally it's older people from other places and shit, so they really don't even be from California. A lot of them drug addicts, a lot of them smoked crack. So the people that they're dealing with, some of them are sharp, but most of them, they're blunted. And when I say they're blunted, I don't mean that it's as simple as they smoke blunts, even though if you smoke blunts, I can convince you some dumb shit much quicker than if you're clear-minded. That's for sure. No question about it. However, we can also have a scientific discussion, discuss molecules, discuss digital physics, discuss all of these high scientific, just astronomic type subject matter, right, when we're blunted. You see what I'm saying? That's another thing you see on the East Coast, right? You got the Wu-Tang niggas, and it's like the metaphysics of the science of the dorminology, and optometry and trigonometry, and another tree is the family tree, and spitting off the three, and the three is a tree. If you're in the Virgin Islands, B, you know what I mean? Like they come with this bullshit. You have to excuse me. That was my strong suit, was rhyming growing up. So it's easy for me to spit this comedic or this this sort of parody of a fucking rhyme scheme at anybody, and it kind of makes sense still. It's like, it's one of my talents. But anyway, we're gonna step off of this because this ain't about me, right? This is about my guest, who is on the screen right here. His name's Sabir. Right, Suburber Bay, baby. Hey, baby, that's my song. How does it go? Hey, baby, that's my song. Turn it up. So anyway, you can see, and this is the trip, right? So at the bottom on the right hand side, you'll see a screen, and it's showing this weirdo with all this strange hippie shit on, right? And I don't want to say it's hippie because it's that person that's giving this stuff a bad look. It's not like that stuff is bad. It's not like that stuff means scammers and charlatans and weirdos or no shit like that. It's Sabir Bay is a scammer, he's a charlatan, and he's a motherfucking weirdo. You see what I'm saying? So I don't want it to seem like I'm saying that people who, may think, move, dress, this kind of thing out of the box, or even similar to the way he's presenting himself, that means that you're automatically weird. It just means that, unfortunately, where there are people who are empaths, or people who are spiritual, or people who are high-minded, people who will consider the thoughts and opinions of others, people who like to have discussions, people who like to discuss spiritual topics, or have alternative methods of thinking, healing, feeling, whatever the fuck is their alternative culture. There's always gonna be a cockroach like this dude Sabir Bay, who's gonna be right there trying to capitalize on that shit. He's gonna be trying to make money from it, or he's gonna be trying to find people who are trying to find themselves and say, hey, let me rap it in your ear for a minute, right? He's gonna use the same tactics as a pimp, right? We noticed that this girl needs money. She ain't got no job. Or if she does have a job, she just like money, right? All I gotta do is bedazzle this broad, right? And next thing you know, I'm the pimping. You see what I'm saying? So there are certain common factors and certain common denominators involved when you're gonna go out there and you're gonna be an internet predator, or you're going to be a charlatan, or you're going to be trying to take advantage of people, right? Using certain tactics, and especially, but not limited to, on this here internet. So as we can see, this person, he has years of experience, right? Going into bookstores, places where there are going to be people who think outside of the box, right? Most of the time, those people are going to be intelligent. However, there are also going to be people who may not fit in certain social groups correctly, right? They're kind of loners and outcasts, most of them. The ones that aren't, I mean, there's something going on a lot of the time when you find certain people in certain places doing certain fucking things. That's just natural. That's the way it is. It's kind of like how a pedophile knows that if he hangs out by elementary school, there's going to be children there, right? So what is the pedophile going to do? The pedophile is going to bring candy, right? The pedophile is going to know things, right? The pedophile is going to know about video games. The pedophile is going to know about what's hip to these children, right? What their interests are. That person who's looking to take advantage of someone who can be taken advantage of has to understand what it is that is interesting to the person they're trying to take advantage of. I mean, they have to. Otherwise it doesn't work, right? So you can't be no stinky, bummy, old ass man, right, sliding up on some young kid without that old man having some sort of a childish mentality himself, or knowing the psychology, the biology, right, the physiology, as well as the interests, right, the things that particular age group of people that he's trying to prey on, the things that cause for them to let their guard down, or that cause for them to allow themselves to be put in precarious situations that then allows the pedophile to become a predator in the first place, right? Most of those sex predator dudes, most of them, they're not openly or outwardly violent, right? Most of them don't just go right to the part where it's like, I'm gonna snatch your ass and get you to do this and force you to do that. These are people who lure you in. They lull you in. Now, there are a group of people who are classified as pedophiles, and they're absolutely violent, and they absolutely go directly to some snatch and grab type shit, or they go absolutely directly to violence, threats, intimidation, etc., in order to do what it is that they do. However, most of them, right, and this is just from my knowledge and understanding of those people as I've read and observed, online and through psychology manuals, etc. I don't know that I've known a couple people who are fucking predatory personally. However, that's a different subject, and they weren't, most of them, one or two of them were suspect as far as young people are concerned. However, it wasn't like they were snatching small kids, but then that's justifying behavior that still ain't no good. So we're just going to avoid that altogether. What I'm thinking of is men who were messing with teenage girls, and they shouldn't have been doing that. Period, point blank. That's fucked up. But that's especially if when it's outside the confines of the law, right? That's not to say that if a 70-year-old can catch an 18-year-old, then something's wrong with him, because that's legal, right? Okay, anyway, I'm digressing. Going into a topic that is away from that character on your TV, on the, your telephone or your computer screen or your television screen right now, who is Sabir Bey. So he has to know what it is that these people are interested in, right? And here's the thing. That's the only way that person is able to A, sell you some shit, B, lead you astray, right? Or C, get you to look up to them. With Sabir Bey, it's always one of those three things, right? He either trying to sell you some shit, tell you some shit, or lure you into some shit, right? It ain't no two ways about it. and it's a trip because this is a hustle that it comes, half of it is prison politics. Half of it is jailhouse lawyer shit tied to these prison books, these books that fools be reading in prison. They have their family members send them the fucking books and whatever. A lot of this stuff is tied to a prison mentality. Which is why and that's another vulnerable group, right, of people. And this is why it's important to understand what it is the dude does and how it is that he does it, right? So one portion of it is tied to predatory people, right? They're fucking predators. They're hustlers. They'll do anything to survive. You see what I'm saying? Including and not limited to say, you know what, black woman, I'm a black man, and you're not doing your duty as a black woman if you're not catering to me. Or you're not doing your duty as a black woman if you ain't making as many black children as you could be popping out of your coochie, right? Or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing as a black woman if you're not promoting blackness and black culture, right? This is attacking a weakness, right? Because obviously black women know that they create everything black. I mean, get the fuck up out of here if you don't know that. So the black woman on one hand loves her creation. She loves her children. She loves being a black woman. While at the same time, culture, society, etc., says that no, it's the opposite of that. Black women hate black children. Black women hate black men, and black women hate blackness. You see what I'm saying? So that's what people like Sabir Bey, they attach to that. Now, what he does is he takes that shit a step further and uses reverse psychology, right? So he says, I'm not black and you're not black neither. Bam. Got you, bitch. I just used this miraculous pimp juice on you right now that just confused you, right? And the reason that I say that is because that's the way that I know pimping to be, right? If you're going to really be a pimp, right, one of the first things, okay, you have to look the part. Now, there's ugly pimps, right? But them ugly pimps, they can talk, right? They're also normally, they can do the Humpty dance, right? Also, them ugly pimps, they normally know how to dress, right? The presentation matters, right? But the whole point is, if you're going to really be pimping on a prostitute, you have to confuse her ass, right? You have to keep them in a state of confusion constantly. Like, she don't know which way is up. She don't know which way is down. And as such, you need to do what I tell you to do because I know which way is left and right at all times. You see what I'm saying? You're stupid. You just do what I told you to do and everything gonna be all right. I'm gonna make sure everything's okay. I'm a man. That's what a man does. You're a woman. I give the orders. You follow them. We're gonna live. Everything's gonna be okay. So this sort of pimpishness, this sort of mentality is kind of the way that Sabir Bey does things. I mean, it's a trip, right? So he has experience, and it's weird because look at the morphism, the metamorphosis, right? So on the bottom right hand screen, you got some little nerd ass weirdo, right? Dressed like a weirdo, right? Giving book lectures or whatever, hanging out with whoever he could cling himself to, whoever he can attach himself to, because he's a tiny little dude. He ain't got no motherfucking muscle like that, right? He needs to be around some 6 foot tall cats, right, in order to command situations and be safe on the street. However, how he gonna do that? Well, he needs to gussy up to as many people as he possibly can. Oh, that's my boy. What's up, homeboy? That's my homeboy, Amadeus, right? That's my homeboy, Pythagoras, Christ. You right? That's my homeboy, Nicodemus, Trojan L or something like this, right? He needs to attach himself to as many people as he possibly can attach himself to because he's a small person, right? He cannot take care of himself if things get out of hand or out of line in the way that he would like to be able to. When I tell you that dude has a Napoleon complex, I mean, it's obvious. All you gotta do is just watch for a few minutes and you can see it. Homeboy has a serious Napoleon complex. However, what he attempts to do is, because he has that Napoleon complex, he tends to try to dominate people in discussion, right? He tries to dominate people other ways. As long as it doesn't come down to anything purely physical, he's going to be okay because he has a fucking Napoleon complex. So he's not thinking about how to beat your ass. He's not thinking about how to physically, dominate you. He's thinking about underhanded, shade tree, seedy ways to make it appear that he is the dominant figure or that he's winning in some sort of competition. Whether or not that and this is the part of the Napoleon complex, it's whether that competition actually exists in real life or not, right? He'll turn it into a competition. It's like, wait a minute, motherfucker, we was just having a discussion, or we was just talking, but let him turn around and start talking about it. It's like, oh yeah, and I did this, and I did, like, play-by-play sports report about how he slam dunked all in your motherfucking mouth, right? How he did reverse alley-oop, under the leg 360 jam in your mouth and broke the backboard, right? When you weren't even playing that game with dude in the first place. This is just another one of the tactics that these sorts of people use to ingratiate themselves or to make themselves feel like they have really accomplished something, like they are competitive, or that they are not competitive, but that they're dominant in some sort of competitive zone that actually doesn't exist in real life. It only exists because they present it in a way that makes it appear that that particular competition actually exists. In real life, this dude, Sabir Bey, he avoids competition. If it's a real competition, he's gonna avoid it. If it's if it's not a thing where he thinks that he's controlling the dialogue, or that he's in some way, how would I say it? If it's not a thing where he doesn't feel that he is in control subconsciously, subliminally in control of the discussion, right? Or the presentation, he don't want nothing to do with it. It's a trip. And again, that goes along with that Napoleon complex. It's like he tries to make it seem like he's little old David with a stone and a sling, right? Taking down giants, taking down Goliath, right? When we in reality, that dude is a little hoggle, right? He's a little Gollum, right? He's a little hunchback weirdo that if you flex on him too hard, he's gonna run, right? He's gonna duck and run. Because in reality, and this is another thing, right? He likes to quote the Art of War. But in reality, for people like him, to not take any damage is victorious, right? So in his mind, in his brain, he can run from a battle. He can run from a fight. And in his strange brain, he can convince himself that he beat you, right? That he used some strategic brilliance to evade capture or harm, and as such, by being a coward and running away from a battle, right, that he beat you or he defeated you. And then oh my gosh, these are things that where I come from, my big homies, elders in my community, they used to tell me straight up, like, listen, don't be out there talking crazy. Don't be out there woofing that bullshit. Especially don't throw rocks and run, homeboy. Like, if they chase you down and they come get you and you get your ass beat, don't come get us. Don't say what happened to you. Don't try to make it seem like what they did to you was wrong, right? Because what you did was you threw stones or whatever it was you was doing. You was nanny booing from way over here. Nanny boo-booing from way over here, right? And you ran and you got away a couple times, so you kept ring. Oh yeah, motherfucker, yeah. I'm trying to remember what. Excuse the clipping. I'm trying to remember what film that is, or exactly the example, because there are perfect ones that exist in film, right, or in Hollywood. But they retreat, and then it's like, what is that? And one of those characters was on The Last Dragon, right? He's like, you don't want it with my brother? You don't want it with Leroy? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the tactic he uses. It's shameful, and it's a trip, because dude is like approaching 60 years old. But what he does is he goes on YouTube, and he gets on the telephone, and he starts calling people on the phone, right? He starts calling people to validate his personal war stories. He's like, yeah, remember when we was sitting out there on Southwest 32nd Street, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and then you remember what I did? And then fools be on the phone like, yeah, I remember that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to have a homeboy like that. Like, this fool used to call me and be making shit up, right? And then trying to, because he was my close partner, he used to try to have me co-sign his lies and shit, right? Try to back up his lie. Like, he knows them people don't believe him. But if I back it up, then they'll believe him, right? It's like, didn't this happen, Blue? Didn't this happen, Mad Dog? You know what I'm saying? Blah, 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 blah. And I just be looking at that cat like, hell nah. I don't know what you're talking about, right? But then it's like he's lying to some girl trying to get into her chonies, right? Or he's lying to some person who don't got nothing to do with nothing. Like, he knew that if he was lying to my people or lying to somebody who mattered to me, then it'll be automatic. Like, I'll bust his ass out. Like, hell nah, I don't know what you're talking about. Or nah, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? But you nobody to me, and he's trying to impress you. So I would, every now and then, I would co-sign some of that shit as like a reward, which I'm not even proud of these days. And I always felt sleazy and slimy even doing some shit like that. Like, first thing first, why are you trying to make this person think this, and this about you? You know what I'm saying? Or it's like, yeah, Blue, don't I know Snoop? Don't I know Sugar Free in them? Wasn't that me in the picture, in this picture right here? Right? Dude uses all kinds of weird ass reverse psychology tactics, all kinds. So I was discussing the other day how Sabir Bey be showing pictures of himself with all these different celebrities and shit, right? And like, I was talking about it with somebody. Like, I can get them pictures too. You can get them pictures too. All you gotta do is pay $400 for a VIP ticket to one of these dudes' comedy shows, and you can have one-on-one time and pictures with Cat Williams. You can have one-on-one pictures with Eddie Griffin, right? You can have one-on-one pictures with these people. You see what I'm saying? And then if you work for a radio station, so this woman, this beautiful woman in the top left-hand presentation, who's looking at him like he's crazy and something wrong with him, right? I'm sure she knows, because she works for a radio station and has worked for radio stations, that they get free tickets to things. They get access to behind the scene access to different stuff. And then when they go into, the discussion with whatever entertainer, they're radio personalities. So they're basically like, you should come on my show, or I'm such and such a person with such and such a radio station, right? They have credentials. They have media credentials. And it's like, well, I came here because we have free tickets. You gave the radio station free tickets. Or I came here, to, watch your show and, evaluate the show or whatever it is. It was a great show. Whatever is the reason for them being there, right? But they end up with these contacts. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes they'll take pictures with you. Come on now. They'll do it. Or they'll give you an exclusive interview, right? I know plenty of people. I have partners and family members who work for radio stations, including and not limited to in Savannah, Georgia, right? And so that cat met all kind of famous people. He talked to all kind of famous people. But the issue is, right, a lot of these dudes who call themselves promoters or feel like that's what they're doing, they're promoting, right? They're actually very strange and very weird when it comes to issues of narcissism. I mean, in certain regards, that career path is good for them, but in other regards, it's not so great for them because they tend to stir shit up, or people tend to want to get them. People tend to want to attack them. But that's besides the point. And again, I'm digressing. So it's interesting to watch like some of these videos. Okay, and so I'm gonna speak on it. So the only reason why I even know who this person is that there were people sharing his dumbass videos to my Facebook page. Now, every person who ever did that, they're on my block list. So they basically kamikaze bombed the page, and after a while, after I watched a few of the presentations, I got rid of the people who sent me those videos. First thing first, because you spamming my feed, right? So he'll fucking go nuts if you spam anything of his, right? If you spam his comment section, if you mention, so that's how me and dude ended up with a problem in the first place. Was I came onto his comment section because whoever it was that he sent to my page to spam his fucking show on my page, right? Whoever did that got my attention. So then I went to his page, and during one of his shows, I mentioned that I wrote a book. This weird, whatever he is, right? We ain't gonna call him the N-word, even though we know that the N-word is hype, right? The N-word is popular. The N-word is in. That's why it's the N-word, right? But we ain't gonna call him the N-word. We ain't gonna call him the popular word, right? Whoever that dude is supposed to be, he started talking crazy shit, talking about, give me 15% or give me 20% of the book and blah, 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 blah. And if you want to promote on my page, give me $1,000. And see, logically, I was offended. I'm like, wait a minute, homeboy, what the fuck is you talking about? Like, some idiot retard that listens to you. Pardon my language, I don't like to use the word retard. And it's difficult to even speak in this society right now and correctly because there's so many words that have just become highly offensive. And some of those words even offend me. And so that Riri word is one of them. I don't like to use that word. However, you get what I'm saying. This ignoramoid, right, Sabir Bey, you know, I'm thinking to myself, like, you sent somebody to my page, or they did it themselves, right? Spam my fucking page with your stupid mumbo jumbo, right? And then here you are turning around telling me that if I want to comment on your feed, I need to pay you, right? So anyway, anyone who come onto my page after that with a handle L, Bay, Ali, Muhammad, any of that kind of shit, they got dumped on their face or they got blocked immediately. Because of that one person, because of Sabir Bey, and listening to him, what he says, and also paying attention to what I know about other quote unquote black Muslims and other people who have last names like Muhammad and first names like Jabril or Ibrahim or Kareem or any of that sort of shit, right? What I know about that, and then also its ties to prison mentality and shit like that, or being in a prison, right? Being confined, and my dealings with them. I've never met a one of them that's been honest. That always been dishonest. Like as soon as, I hate to say it this way, but this is just the way they've presented themselves to me, so I don't know what to say about it. But any of these kind of dudes right here that always act like they're smarter than you, and they're backstabbers. They're quick to stab you in the back. there have been situations where I've been locked up and I saved a couple of these dudes, right? Like one of them, the dude act like he was starving. He couldn't eat because he couldn't consume what was on his tray, right? And nobody gave a fuck about that. They used to laugh at him. They used to rag that cat for waking up every day, talk about greeting the sun on his little prayer mat, asking for special privileges, bothering people when they trying to sleep, right? Because when you in jail, it's a 10 to 10 code, right? So you're supposed to shut the fuck up till 10 o'clock. It's 10 to 10, right? 10 a.m. is quiet, up to 10 a.m. is quiet time, and then after 10 p.m. is quiet time. You see what I'm saying? For people who need sleep, or people who need to go to court, or people who just don't get up early in the morning, or whatever it might be, right? It's a 10 to 10 code in jail in California. And that dude, he would get up and he'd be Muhammad, Salamam, Salabim, Salamam, Salabam, Salabim, Salamam, Salabim. Right? Rahim, Shalom, 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 Shalami. Right? He'd be doing that shit at 5 o'clock in the morning and everybody want to kill him. Right? This is America. And you know, all over the news, George Bush was bombing them fools to hell, right? And Bill Clinton and all these dudes, they bombing them fools to hell, right? So naturally, nobody liked that dude, right? He was just, it was pitiful, it was shameful, it was sad, right? And his blackness didn't matter. Nobody cared that he was a brother. Nobody cared that he was black. Nobody cared about any of that shit. That was like, nigga, shut up, right? You're disturbing us every morning when we're trying to sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, kissing the carpet, talking about a lama 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 bum, right? And all this, like, it don't fit, it don't go, right? So when chow time would come, he'd act like he was starving, like he couldn't eat the food. It's like, oh, they gave me bologna, brother. I can't eat bologna, brother. They gave me they put pork in the spaghetti, brother. I can't eat this spaghetti, brother. Right? I don't know. I don't eat meat, brother. I can't eat hamburgers, brother. Right? Nobody cared. They just left him right there. He would just be eating fruit off his tray or whatever. So here I come, right? I'm like, okay, look. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna trade you. Whatever I have right here that you can't eat, I'm gonna give you that. And then you'll just give me the double up on whatever it is that you can't eat. Right? Okay, bet. We went like that for about a week and a half, right? Until he figured out a way to try to start negotiating, right? To try to work his way up, right? With other people, his trade, right? Now, that food never really mattered to me because my storage was on deck. So I had food in my drawer, right? My commissary bags were loaded. So I didn't worry about that, about what I was going to eat. And then I fed my homies, right? So I don't want to say I didn't like no punk or nothing, but we ate. You see what I'm saying? When nobody where I was at was starving, right? We made sure we had food. But, Islami, homeboy, right? He was not part of it. He was too busy being self-righteous and all this other stuff. He only show up when we about to eat. You see what I'm saying? Like with his cup out. Like, can I get some spread with you, please? You see what I'm saying? And we be like, nah, man, it's hot TJ mamas in here and salami and all that other stuff in here. And you can't have no pepperonis, homie, and all this other shit, right? It was terrible. It was sad. But anyway, this is besides the point. I'm just speaking towards the behavior patterns of these particular dudes, the way they behave, the way that they carry themselves, the way, you know, at 1 minute they're all God-fearing and they're humble and they wouldn't hurt a fly, and the next minute they're full of rage talking about Ali Akbar, right? The next minute they're infuriated and the entire system needs to come down, right? The next minute, you know, it needs to be Sharia law. And should no woman be wearing no heels, right? Which is the trick, because I'll be seeing the Muslim girls and they be mashing around with blankets on, and then on their feet they got them little high heel shoes on, and stuff like that, which is interesting. Anyway, that's besides the point. We're gonna move on from there. I don't have a problem with Muslims, and I don't have a problem with Islam. In fact, I think Islam is a beautiful religion. I think as far as Oriental religions are concerned, Islam is, when done correctly, is okay, right? Even though it's a religion of sin. Why is it a religion of sin? Well, because sin is the moon. Look it up. You like Google so much, or going to Oxford English Language Dictionary or wherever you're going to look for it, and you go ahead and find out the ties to sin and the moon. Sin was a moon goddess, right? Or a moon god, or whatever, however we're going to call them. We're non-gender binary around here, so who knows what is a god or a goddess anymore. Anyway, and also, mental illness and being deranged or being a psychopath, and then the ties to lunacy and Luna and the moon, craziness, right? Which I've broken that shit down scientifically a long time ago, explained it in previous recordings, right? So the same as gravity is affected, the tides are affected by the moon cycle. There's water, there's fluid in your body, and specifically there's water and fluid in your brain. And so as the planetary cycles do their thing, or as the moon, especially the moon, as the moon does its thing and the gravity changes, obviously the gravity changes. How do you know? Well, because there are different cycles that are regulated by the moon, including and not limited to a woman's menstrual cycle. Right? Why is her menstrual cycle regulated by the moon? Well, it's gravity, right? Which she produces eggs and ovulates, and in a fish that is called to become gravid, right? There is gravity is something that is extra dynamic, which is why they say women are controlled by the moon and men are controlled by the sun or patterns of the sun. However, I'm not going to go into that right now. That's super sophisticated science and spiritual occultism that most peon brains are not suited to or situated to even try to understand. So we're not going to go over that right now. Unless you want to drop $500 into my Cash App. Or if you want to pay $125 for a class, right? Then I'll make a video or something and I'll explain to you how lunacy and the gravity and the moon and crazy women and craziness and the full moon and witches and paganism and Wicca and witchcraft and all that stuff. How that whole dynamic works, right? I'll explain it to you. I'll even explain to you that there are entire world powers that do not operate under a solar calendar, right? We do not use the same calendar as certain places. Certain places are actually on a very different timeline, and they are also using a lunar calendar that also divine or use, they do their divination practices based on lunar mansions as opposed to anything that has to do with solar anything. Right. So anyway, that's besides the point, and that's part of the problem we're having here, right? It's like, oh, did you know that Arabs invented this and Arabs invented that, and did you know that Arabs did this, and did you know that Arabs move on a different plane of function? I mean, they pay attention to different elements than most Christians do. Christian scientists, right? Or Western scientists, right? This is why you have your Oriental and your Occidental occultism. However, again, I've digressed. Only reason why I'm even discussing this stuff is because you got this little midget in the beanie. Like, he feels like he's just fantastically marveling 6 people in a bookstore, right? And in his mind, this presentation is phenomenal because he likes to watch himself, right? Because he likes to look at himself. But in reality, I mean, who is he captivating? He's definitely holding someone captive, but who is it? Is it himself? Is it the 3 or 4 people in the bookstore that are entertaining his bullshit? I mean, it just depends on your perspective and the way you choose to, excuse me, the way you choose to interpret what it is that you see, right? So anyway, cousin Dominique, right, Mr. Prima, with her fine ass, woo. Anyway, you know, she she is tearing dude up. And the funny thing is this, right? So what I was saying was the metamorphosis, right? You have this little shrimp of a weenie dude in the beanie in one presentation, right? So then he grows some dreadlocks, right? He grows some hair on his head, and he's like, "Oh, are you mad because of my hair? Are you mad because you hate me because my hair is long? You hate me because I could take your girl? You hate me, right?" It's a trip. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like this little guy, he looked at a bunch of tall men, strong masculine dudes. He watched them, right? And he saw that more and more of them were growing their hair and this kind of thing. So he did what most shrimps and sucker butts and weenie face scallywag motherfuckers do. And he copied them, right? He grew his hair, right? And see, this is the crazy thing. This is the vanity in that dude, right? So he's like, "Oh, like, is it my hair? That's the reason why you're jealous of me?" That's some shit. Like, I don't want to say that's some shit a woman would say, right? But then, of course, because he's within the spiritual realm, right? He's gonna say, "Well, everyone's masculine and feminine," which is an absolute truth. There's no refuting that, right? He's gonna say, "Oh, well, that slit beneath your balls is a uterus." No, it's not. It's not. You don't even understand female autonomy, homeboy. You don't even understand female anatomy. So what you're looking to say, this is what you're trying to say, is you're trying to say that your ball sack is a labia, or made from vaginal tissue. That if you were a female, right, if during a certain point within the womb you didn't morph, right, then you would, where your balls are, where your testicles are, right, the testicle sac has a split down the middle. That would be where the vagina would be located, right? And then that the balls area would be the labia or the lips. And then, you know, there is a labia minora and there's labia majora, right? So if you pull on the inside and you pull outward, then you find that, you know, there would be some lips in there. And these what's funny about this is these are all things that plastic surgeons know very well. I mean, plastic surgeons know this stuff. How do we know that they know it? Well, because they can cut your wiener off, homeboy, and then allow your vagina to be right there, right? Or your new vagina, the one you paid for, the vagina that you bought from the store. You see what I'm saying? Can then be right there, right? So if you look really close at a woman, if you look really close, you will see that where her clitoris is, right there, it becomes erect, right? It's like a small little penis head, right? And then some women, I don't want to call them hermaphrodites, but that they are. Some of them are hermaphrodites, or they're pushing the line towards being a hermaphrodite. And they have their clitoris actually is a damn near functioning penis. I mean, it just is what it is. That's the way that it works. And, you know, to me, it bothers me because some of the things that these people say and do is rooted in or based on actual science. However, much of it is actually them wanting to use like film, right? Propaganda. Them wanting to use underhanded tactics to convince you to align yourself with them. And you have to be careful who it is and what it is that you're actually in line or aligned with, right? The Christians will tell you that automatically. They will say to you, like, nope, I'm not lining up with any Muslims. And I'm not lining up with any Buddhists. And I'm not lining up with any Hindus, right? And that's their opinion. That's their choice. Trust me. There are plenty of other people. Like, the only time you can ignore that is when it comes down to commerce. Right? You kind of have to ignore it when it comes down to trade, because then how else does the world function? Right? But you got dudes like Taj Tariq, right? And they have revealed all of the secrets, right? There are no more secrets. They've gone into the inner chamber and they have revealed all of the secrets of the hidden temple, all of the secrets of the inner chamber, right? Trying to get you to look at them. You see what I'm saying? Which is a trip. So anyway, a lot of what's going on with the dreadhead guy, the person, Sabir Bey, is actually a result of going ons with Taj Tariq Bey. And the unfortunate part of that is I can't say that not only myself, but some people that I know, they actually appreciated that guy. Like, they liked listening to Taj Tariq Bey. They liked the stuff that he was saying, the stuff that he was bringing forward. It just so happened to have become, that now Taj Tariq Bey cannot control his little peon. He cannot control Sabir Bey. Taj Tariq, I've heard Sabir Bey say all kinds of shit about Taj Tariq Bey. I've heard him say all kind of ridiculous shit. Like, oh, if you got a problem with Taj, call Taj. Don't tell me about Taj. If they scammed you, or if they did this, or if they did that, if they did this third thing and they did this another thing, tell them. Why are you telling me for? Okay, homeboy. Where I come from, that cut your fucking head off already. I can't be like, yeah, you know what, and this and that and that and that, and fuck the big homie. I'm not allowed to do it. You know what I'm saying? For real. And if I am gonna say fuck the big homie, or like I don't like him, like he's a punk and I don't like the way he does things, or if he did wrong to you, don't come at me with that shit. If I'm gonna say it like that, I'm gonna have to say it very quietly. And I'm gonna have to make sure that then I'm not standing on no light pole screaming that shit. Right? Because eventually it could be that my big homie show up. Like, what's that shit you said? You know what I'm saying? And then it's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be like, yeah, I said that shit. And, you know, I might have to hurt somebody. You know what I mean? But this is all besides the point, right? What we're dealing with is a group of people who have one foot in the penitentiary. These are people who are trying to still trying to politicize that Vice Lord business. They're still trying to politicize the Black Keystone Nation. They heard through the grapevine that certain people got government grants, right? That certain people were being paid by the government, you know what I mean, to fucking hold the hood down, to do all kind of ridiculous. I mean, you know, I ain't gonna player hate, right? Because me personally, I don't got no issue with Jeff Fort, right? I think a bunch of these dudes, they really want to be Jeff Fort, or they really want to continue, you know, the path of Jeff Fort, right? They want to be as, you know, validated in a way, or for their story to be as big as a Jeff Fort. However, they're never going to be a Jeff Fort, right? They're never going to be T. Rogers, right? Their inroads to Los Angeles and through the Black Keystone Nation and all these other things, it's obvious to anybody who knows. I mean, come on. I know what I see. I know what I'm looking at. I know what I hear. You see what I'm saying? How do I know that shit? Well, because I'm from California, homeboy. You see what I'm saying? For real, for real. My people have been in prison, right? My people are gangsters, right? And when I say that, I don't mean like Lucky Luciano, because those are mobsters. See what I'm saying? Like, there are certain people, they don't understand English as well as they try to make it seem like they do. Like, they use big words like etymology and shit and can't say washing machine, right? Or can't say washing machine. I understand we have these different accents and these different ways that we say things depending on the areas we come from, and then how well we are trying to articulate the language, the speech that it is, or the message it is that we're trying to communicate to somebody. I understand all of that, or how about I say I overstand all of that. I know how all of that works. You hear what I just said? I'm speaking Mustafa Muhammad right now, right? I just said I overstand all of that. They heard me. They know what I said. So anyway, some people, they think they super slick. It's like you can't hear what they're saying, or you don't know what they're saying, or you don't know what they're trying to do. And some people don't. Some people don't give a fuck. Some people don't care. For other people, it's not part of their world to be giving a shit about none of that. I mean, it's nothing to them. It doesn't affect their bank account. It doesn't affect their life. It doesn't affect their worldview. It doesn't affect their personal view of themselves or their friends or any other thing, right? But then there are the people who they start to, certain frequencies, certain vibrations, right? Certain intellects, certain demons, right? Start to play on their head, start to play on their brain, right? Some people who are not made for it. Some people who are not built for it. Some people who are not made to contain certain spirits within their vessel, right? But then walk around acting like they are the representative of that vessel, or of that spirit, and it just doesn't work well, right? If you're going to be dealing with these Moorish people, if you're going to be dealing with this fucking Philadelphia shit, if you're going to be dealing with this Philadelphia, filet, satanic, SETTANIC, not SA, satanic stuff, you're going to need to understand Oriental magic. You're going to need to understand vapors. You're going to need to understand vessels. You're going to need to understand aspiration. You're going to need to understand breath and breathing. You're going to need to understand expansion and contraction. You're going to need to understand sorcery from an Oriental perspective, an Oriental standpoint. You can learn everything there is to know about Islam dealing with China. You can learn everything there is to know about Islam, every secret that any Sufi could ever want to know, by studying the Orient, by studying Orientals, by studying Asians. I don't mean the Asiatic black man. I mean what is presented as an Asian today, right? They're called Eurasians, right? That's because they are European Asians. They are part of a Eurasian steppe, right? They are hybrids. They are hybrids. They call them hybrid Europeans, right? But what they mean to say is that they are European. They are mixtures of people from Europe and mixtures of people from Asia. Where in Asia? East Asia, West Asia, North Asia, South Asia, right? The Dravidians and these guys, okay, they were black. The Iranians and the Aryans and all these guys, okay, their skin was not black. We can take this discussion all the way into antiquity. But first, it would pay to pick up certain books and to read them, to know what is in the secret doctrine, as well as to study the writings of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. That is a person who, if you are trying to know this sort of stuff, you should look into what she's already presented. Also, if you're really some big badass motherfucker and you think you're super bad, right? Stop cutting corners and start looking into the materials that have already been printed by Lucifer Trust, right? Or Lucifer's Trust. Start looking into some of this stuff that's already been presented. I mean, some of the people that you looking dead in the face and you think that they don't know nothing, they're not going to tell you what they know. But I'm going to tell you straight up, some of these beautiful people, they are Rosicrucians. When I say they're Rosicrucians, I mean they're religious Rosicrucians. And as such, they have a certain degree of overstanding. They have a certain degree of intellect that they don't have to, for you to assume that they don't know what the fuck you know because you got a certain Boy Scout patch or not. Because you got a mortar board or whatever it is, the hat on your head, right? Just because you think that those people don't know how every element, every aspect of that sort of stuff works, because you think that, you're stupid. I mean, Rosicrucian, the church, Rosicrucian church is real. I have a membership ID card. Don't even trip. I have a few cards, and I'm part of a few different international, intergalactic organizations. Talk about that stuff for what? Is that going to make you believe me anymore? I mean, if I say, yeah, I have this card that says I'm part of this, I pay dues with this organization, right? I've read the transcripts up to such and such a degree in this organization. Is that going to make you believe me any better or any worse? Or am I not supposed to pull that stuff out in the first place? Should we not be discussing that stuff unless you are also a member or unless you are also part of such and such a fraternity, fraternal order, or sorority, right? These are things, I mean, we can go on forever discussing them. There's no point in doing it. However, in closing this video, I would like to listen to something that was posted today on Instagram by the extremely beautiful Madame Dominique Duprema. Let's see what she had to say. This is so funny. I watched this presentation live and it was hilarious. Anyway.
And they buy clothing and things that they need to get a better job.
I understand. That's just like giving a loaded gun to a child. We can say that with a child. Give a child, an uneducated person, a gun. They're going to do whatever they're going to do with it, right?
That's not a good example because what you're talking about is a debt that America owes to black people.
Okay.
And so if you owe me money, I don't get to do a poll about whether it's popular for you to pay me back or whether or not I'm qualified to spend the money correctly or my mind is right. You have to pay me because you owe me. Why are you against monetary reparations?
Because we don't even understand what money is. We don't understand that money is metal. It's not the paper. It's not the paper.
But you can buy a house with it, whether it's paper, metal, whatever. You can buy groceries for your kid. You can
that's true.
Start a business. You can build something.
Again, if you gave every one of us finances, what will we do with it?
Who cares?
Let's be realistic.
If it's a debt that's owed to me, you don't get to decide whether or not you pay me back based on whether I am too foolish to spend it wisely. That's not your call.
But we also do, we got to be real. We got to understand.
Okay, let's be real. Let's look at universal basic income, Sabir Bey. They said the same thing. If you give poor people money, they're going to go buy drugs and Gucci. But study after study of people who get universal basic income, which is here's $1,000 a month, do whatever you want with it. They did it in Compton. They did it in Stockton. They find that people buy transportation. They buy enrichment programs for the kids. And they buy clothing and things that they need to get a better job.
I understand. That's just like giving a loaded gun to a child. We can say that with a child. Give a child, an uneducated person, a gun. They're going to do whatever they're going to do with it, right?
That's not a good example, because what you're talking about is a debt that America owes to black people.
Okay.
And so if you owe me money, I don't get to do a poll about whether it's popular for you to pay me back, or whether or not I'm qualified to spend the money correctly, or my mind is right. You have to pay me because you owe me. Why are you against monetary reparations?
Because we don't even understand what money is. We don't understand that money is metal.